Welcome to Beans and Breakdowns, a podcast dedicated to bridging the gap between specialty coffee and the heavy music community. On this episode, I'm joined by vocalist extraordinaire James Dorton of the band Black Crown Initiate and DiAmorte. James is also known for some of his voice acting work, especially in the video gaming world. So grab a fresh cup of coffee and wake the fuck up! Well, what's going on, a caffeinated crew? Today on the podcast, I'm joined by James Dorton. He is the vocalist of the band Black Crown Initiate. He also vocalizes in the band DiAmorte. James, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be joined by a living, breathing Viking on the podcast this morning. It's like first thing in the morning, I'm just greeted by lots of hair, lots of beard. It's in just a nice, deep timbre voice.
Yeah, man, it's a thing.
Yeah,
I get that from time to time.
Well, let's start off the podcast. What are you drinking right now?
I am drinking an Ethiopian Shikiso, which is a varietal heirloom. So it's an heirloom varietal, which means it doesn't really say a lot because Ethiopia is a place where they have so much like wild kind of, what's the term?
Just varietals. They have all kinds of species of Arabica.
With the bees going around, you know?
Yeah.
And like, so there's just a lot of like mix. So it's just kind of like a way of saying this is, you know, it's like an umbrella term. Heirloom. So it's a natural process, which I like. And it's from a local-ish roaster to me. I live in Bloomington, Indiana, and this is from Columbus, Indiana, which is about an hour east, like southeast of me, called Lucabe.
Nice.
It's delightful. Yeah.
Is it natural Ethiopian? It's going to have a lot of nice, like fruity, floral notes in it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's kind of like my go-to, and I guess that's a lot of coffee guys' go-to. But yeah. Consistently, it's
natural in general.
Yeah, like natural and Ethiopians seem to be at least in my experience, seems to be the favorite.
I agree.
But I love the natural process where they let the cherry sit on the sun and the sweets. I'm
drinking a Burundi from Kittel. I'm super happy because it's been a minute since I've had a Burundi. I love coffees from Burundi. This one is from the Kayanza region. It is a red Bourbon, which very nice, very robust flavor. And it is a natural process as well. It's got some dark chocolate notes in it, as well as some raspberry and a bit of fermented wine taste. So
I love that.
Yeah, so good. I'm getting big on these fermented tasting coffees. It used to kind of be a negative a while back, but I think a lot of producers have dialed in their processes a lot more to bring out more of the sweeter acidic flavors instead of some of the nastier, sour flavors.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things right now about modern coffee culture is that it's this ever evolving perfection of the process, and coffees that I couldn't drink before, and my own palate has evolved too. But yeah, that is a thing. I haven't had a fermented flavor note coffee that I've liked personally, but it's also new, and I think that I haven't had the opportunity to really have a good Burundi. Who roasted this one?
It's from Kittel. It's a Montreal roaster here. Right. But yeah, I honestly, it's been a minute since I've had a Burundi, and I really have recently, following the trend, have gotten onto these more fermented tasting, like natural Colombians, and I actually had a natural Ethiopian from Houston a while back that had very strong red wine flavor, almost too much, but it was still interesting. But the anaerobic process coffees now, where they're actually fermenting the coffee for processing, is bringing out just a normal Costa Rican or Central American coffee it's bringing out crazy flavors that you wouldn't have before. Like my friend roasted one from Costa Rica that it tasted like a strawberry creamy tart.
Weird.
It was super weird, but really, really good.
Yeah, man, I can get down with some of that. It might come across, and maybe over time, it would get to be a little gimmicky, but I'm down. Give me that shit. What's the one from Houston again? What was that roaster?
It's called Highwood.
Highwood.
Got to expand the community.
Yeah, man. Got to bring out the knowledge a little.
That's right.
I know I need to expand my own a little.
I do what I can.
Gaps.
I do what I can.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I love this.
So you're in Indiana and Bloomington, Indiana?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite local shop or local roaster?
Lucabe might be my favorite that's accessible to me. There's a really good one that's actually run by a buddy of mine called B Roasters in Indianapolis. And really local to me in Bloomington would be Hopscotch. That's like the local favorite, and it's not for no reason. They're really good at what they do too.
Okay. That's a cute name too. I like that.
Hopscotch?
Yes.
Yeah, it's cute. It's so cute.
Makes me think
cute
of
little shop.
Going to a playground to have some coffee.
Yeah. Well, there's a playground not too far away, so you could.
Then it kind of could come off as creepy, but maybe not.
Yeah. You wouldn't be the only one that looks like you there. So.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a college town, so there's a lot of like 30-somethings that kind of hang around the area and, eventually have kids and bring their kids there.
Mm-hmm. So. I'm glad there's, in a smaller town, there's still a good coffee culture. I find that's been a trend recently, especially in the States. I was doing a lot of traveling in 2020 and 2019 and found lots of small gyms in these like little suburbs and things.
Yeah, man. I think it's lucky that I live in a college area because I feel like it draws a lot of good stuff like that. There's some good distilleries here too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a really good brewery called Upland. And there's some good little local economy.
That's great. I guess that is true. College always brings in those trendy, hip kind of industries. I do want to talk a little bit about, I had Kim Song from Mol on, and he had mentioned that you guys, when y'all are on tour in Europe, I believe, that you were coffee hunting and trying to brew coffee backstage.
Oh yeah.
Is this
Kim's my buddy.
Is this a like a personal goal when you're on tour? You kind of just try to find the coffee or brew backstage or something like that. What is kind of your process when you're on tour?
Yeah, that is one of my favorite things about traveling is it gives you an excuse to walk about the city and find a good new thing, and that is like, I didn't always have a buddy in that, whenever I was on tour, like, when Jesse Beeler was still in Black Crown Initiate, we used to go do that all the time. Now he's in Dubai. He lives in Australia. He's in Dubai at his bed. But, so when Kim and I discovered that we both were coffee semi-nerds, we would just go find a spot on Yelp or on Google and try to get over there. And it was a good excuse to get around and see the sights and have some coffee while you're at it.
Was there any particular shop that you went to with him that was, some of the best coffee that you've had?
Oh man.
I know in Scandinavia, it's like insane.
Scandinavia is a beautiful, beautiful place, and had some of the best coffee that I'd ever had. There was one in Denmark in particular, but I can't remember its name because I was also smoking a lot of weed at the time. While I was on that tour, it was just like, I don't know, giving out like candy. And at the time it wasn't giving me panic attacks. So I was like, okay, sure. So I was just taking part in that. And it kind of unfortunately leads to tour being a bit of a blur, if I'm going to be honest. But there were a few places. Well, there was one in Berlin that was a very beautiful Had some very beautiful espresso, single origin. And their names are going to escape me. But
I know that Kim had mentioned Steller, which I believe is in Berlin.
Yeah, that was the one. And he could probably tell us the name of the one in Denmark too. That one, I believe, is kind of like world famous.
I thought it was just funny because he was talking about, he had this like old mammoth, literally mammoth grinder that he was carrying around backstage.
We went on a hunt for that thing. Like that was a trek. That was a journey. We were really trying to find a good hand grinder so that we could do it on our own, because there were a few cities where we were like, man, we haven't found one in 7 days. This is ridiculous. Right. And he brought beans with him, I believe, or he had found beans on the road. I can't remember which one it was, but he had his AeroPress in the AeroPress app. So when he finally did find one, we were in Austria. I do remember that.
Okay.
When he found one, it was in Austria. We found this shop that had like 6 items in it. It was super boutique looking and just squeaky clean. And he walks out with this crazy grinder. And I'm like, I'm not sure how much to spend on that, but I'm down.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have my own little barista here with me. Let's just go.
I love that. That's like what I just picture, like these two very like metalhead guys like backstage, like pouring an AeroPress, and like somebody's holding a timer. Everybody else has beers. Like, what the hell are y'all doing?
Well, it was funny too, because I feel like Kim doesn't look like the stereotypical like metal guy. I feel like I could be accused of that, even though I don't feel like I do either. But I guess I do have long hair or whatever. But he like, he would wear like a Hawaiian shirt and have like, he had kind of like an Elvis sort of haircut going on at the time. And, so we were quite a pair.
That's great.
We were quite a pair. He's my buddy though, man. I love that guy so much.
Yeah.
I love that whole band. Those guys are such sweethearts.
They definitely had one of my favorite releases of last year. So
me too. Me too.
I was super happy to get to talk to him a bit. And then him just sharing some of the stories with you. I was like, I think I need to talk to James now.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that connection happened. This is pretty fun. There's a really good picture circulating the internet of my guitar player and singer Andy holding hands with their guy Holger in front of the Eiffel Tower. It's very pretty.
So wholesome.
It's great. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your music, what you've got going on. I know that you just released a song, Where the Light Grows Cold, with your band DiAmorte.
Yeah.
The video is extremely epic. I think that's the only word that I can use, is in all caps, like epic. What was some of the process behind recording and doing the video shoot and things like that?
Man, that song took a very long time to make. DiAmorte is kind of the brainchild of this guy named Drake Mafesta, and he's been doing it for, I think he started the band in like 2004 when he was a kid, and he's just a very hyper intelligent, super imaginative guy. And the band itself has a lot of different aspects to it. He really tries to think outside of the box, and there's like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that was created based on the story that backs the music. So there's a whole lore involved with the whole thing. So there's 5 singers, the full metal band, and then we had also hired the Budapest scoring orchestra and choir to perform on the song. The process of making it was just so laborious and time-consuming and difficult that I think it sort of, it kind of appeared unrealistic to maybe some of the people. I don't know. That's just kind of an assumption that I'm making. But it sort of kind of pushed some things to the forefront with some of the members that we had to end up replacing ultimately. Or maybe they just decided they needed to reprioritize. And mixing the thing was just just an incredibly difficult process. We ended up having to find a few different people to attempt to mix this thing. We ended up getting James Stevenson, who did a great job. So shooting the video, we just went to a warehouse in Chicago, and we had a sword choreographer come out, and like a makeup artist and camera crew and green screen. And it was just 12 hours of, sword choreography and hitting each other with swords. And at one point I swung a sword super hard, and it was an old sword owned by someone in the camera crew. And the sword came out of its hilt and flew across the room, and it could have speared someone. It went, like 20 feet or something like that. Super hard. We have these costumes that were made for us that are just like, I think mine might be the most in-depth and complicated one. It's like made out of leather. It's like 50 pounds, and it was tailor-made. And so I spent all day in that thing, and I think I lost about 15 pounds of water weight. Right. But it was a fun process. It was, it's cool because Drake is also a graphic artist, graphic designer, and he made all the graphics in the video himself. He's done a lot of work doing lyric videos for like Cradle of Filth and artists like that. He does some like big rock star types like Wasp. He does graphic arts for Wasp and stuff like that. So man.
Like the concept was really cool to me, like blending in the live shots and having, it looks like it's almost projection over y'all's faces with like the screen behind. It's really crazy looking, and then blending that in with the graphics. I was like, this is really cool. Like super original in my opinion. I haven't seen a lot of bands do something quite like that, because it's a lyric video, but you incorporated like live aspects.
Yeah, it's both.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's both. It's like a lyric video and a music video at the same time. So
it just creates like a very epic looking environment.
Yeah. I was pretty excited with how it came out. There's like 20 versions of it all told. Drake is a perfectionist, but I was super happy with how it came out.
And I was really jealous because I did see that the 5th edition campaign that incorporates the music. And I was so jealous that you are now a character in a 5th edition campaign.
It's wild.
It's crazy.
I gotta say. Yeah. I haven't really played a ton of Dungeons and Dragons, although I've played it a handful of times. Or that type of tabletop,
right? Like an RPG
gaming type thing. Yeah, I haven't delved in that too much, but it is pretty sweet, I gotta say. And like, I have this book over there on my bookshelf over there, and it's wild to see you hand drawn in like artwork and stuff. And
it is very akin to it. They captured like the face, everything, like the likeness is very much there. I was like, this looks exactly like James.
It's a wild time to be alive, I'm gonna say.
Where you can be drawn as a character in an RPG.
Yeah.
On the side of being a character, and especially games, you do a lot of voice acting, a lot of game acting I've seen as well. What has been your favorite role so far, voicing for any kind of film or game or anything like that?
Oh, man. I feel like each project has been pretty unique for me. I had a very interesting into that whole industry, and that is through Black Crown Initiative. It was through my band. I feel like the first one I had that was, well, I'm going to backtrack here. I was going to say the first major thing I ever did was Doom Eternal. And I received an email asking if I wanted to be a part of the Doom choir, in which they hired a bunch of extreme vocalists to sing for this like demon choir that happens in Doom Eternal. So it was through like my kind of like metal thing that I got to be a part of that. And I feel like that's led to like unique jobs.
Right.
I'm trying to transition more into doing standard voice acting, which I do have a lot of training and expertise in, but it's kind of like been my band's fault that I'm involved in this type of stuff. The first voice acting job I ever did was for an expansion that was made for Elder Scrolls Oblivion called Knights of the Nine Revelations. It was like a PC expansion that was pretty indie, and but it's playable. It's still out there. Like you can still get it. And I played like I voiced like 6 or 7 different characters on that game. And then right after that happened, Black Crown Initiate happened.
Okay.
So I stopped and went on tour. So there was that. And then I did the Metal Hellsinger thing, which was I just performed an original song that was written for the soundtrack, which was a ton of fun. Also unique unto itself, like a unique experience. And then the most recent one was for Dead by Daylight, right? Voice James Sunderland, and it was a lot of getting tortured noises. They're like, okay, so we want you to sound like you're being hung up on a meat hook. Okay, we want you to sound like you've fallen from about 5 feet. Now we want you to sound like you've fallen from about 12 feet. So a lot of stuff like that.
How endearing.
Yeah. So they're all unique experiences unto themselves.
Actually, I believe Dead by Daylight is produced in Montreal by a company here.
It is Behavior Interactive.
Okay, yeah. So I know a lot of people trying, like some of my friends are like, I'm thinking about getting into voice acting. I'm like, there's literally a million places that you could go here and just try to audition. But
so that was, I actually got that through an agency in Montreal called the Monster Factory, which is a La Fabrique de Monstres.
Yep.
And it's headed by this guy named Sebastian Croteau, who had this very unique idea of hiring metal vocalists to do creature noises for games. But he's trying to expand more into standard voiceover as well. But that's kind of how I got drawn into it, was that I'm a metal vocalist and I can make weird noises. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool.
That's such a Montreal idea, is capitalizing on the fact that there is so much like animation. My wife works in animation. That's why we live here. We're not Montreal native. Nice. So, and the gaming industry is always needing tons of different voice acting. And there's consequently a ton of death metal and technical death metal bands here in Montreal that all have pretty stellar vocalists. So that's such a great idea to just capitalize and kind of merge those two together.
My girlfriend and I briefly entertained the idea of moving there ourselves, kind of to that end, because I'm kind of a voice actor, and she works for Google, and she can really work from anywhere. And we love Montreal. We've been there quite a few times. So
I love living here. I think it's probably one of the best cities, top 5 in North America, but I really love it. So if you ever want to talk offline about that, let me know. I can give you some heads up about things, but
definitely. Yeah. It could very well be a thing.
Yeah. It's great.
Still.
It's great. What would be your dream gig? If you could go out and get a role right now, what would you want to do? I know that's probably a hard question.
I feel like, I want to do all kinds of stuff, and voice acting is definitely part of it. I do want to try some kind of like on camera stuff at some point, where I use my face. I don't know what that looks like, because I have a very specific look. And for me, it's more about just being myself in any given situation, which, anyone that knows me knows that I'm kind of a wild child, but like, as long as I get to be myself in whatever situation that is, that's why I love being in Black Crown Initiate, and I love being in DiAmorte, is it just lets me be a wild animal. And I think whatever role would let me fulfill that part of myself is something I would enjoy doing. I don't really know what that would look like. But I'm always on the lookout for stuff like that. And I think that's why I end up doing the kind of weird and random and seemingly disjointed stuff that I do.
I'm sure that that's out there though. The on-camera character work is probably something that's out there.
Yeah, I think so.
You do have the face for it though. You have a very expressive, I know that this is an audio medium, but we're looking face to face, and I can say that you have a very expressive face as well as an expressive voice. So I think that there's definitely potential there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Black Crown Initiate, you guys released a full length last year in the midst of the pandemic, or right pre-pandemic. It was October, wasn't it?
We released it in August of 2020.
That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, it still feels like last year. But yeah, we decided to go ahead with it. We delayed it a few times, and we had seen a few arguments for releasing music during the pandemic. One, that people just really needed.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a time to try to survive and put one foot in front of the other. And I think that gave us an opportunity to, we kind of wanted to like help ourselves for one, because making that album was a painful process, but also because we wanted to help other people. And I think hopefully we did. I listened to a Fox and Hops podcast with the singer from Black Dahlia Murder and Trevor. And he said that, like, he had this reasoning, we are putting this record out, and, there's a lot of people that are at home right now with time on their hands. And this is a good time for them to get a hold of new music. Right. So we can't be on tour to support this, and that's true. But I think, it's good for putting out an album. So we were like, yeah, okay. We kind of agreed with that logic, I think, and Century Media wanted to put it out. So we went ahead and pulled the trigger.
For sure. And I do agree. Definitely in the pandemic, I was always looking forward to new releases coming out and new, especially video content, if bands were able to swing that. That was like what really kept me and a lot of, I feel like, our community in heavy music going, is because going to a metal show, going to a hardcore show, it's all about being together, like the community and the energy of all being there with the band and the band with the crowd and everything. And, music can keep you going, releases can keep you going, but at some point it's like, I just want to be in the room.
Yeah. And there's nothing replacing that. And there is, I think, a certain, at least speaking for myself and speaking for us, there is like some level of trauma that happens, when you put out an album and then you can't do anything about it.
Right.
And that was the case for us, man. We never got to tour on this one. And we're looking forward to being able to play some of those songs live, but it's almost time to make a new one.
Now, I know you guys have a tour coming up with Allegion.
Yes. Allegion and the Omnium Gathering, and it starts February 26th in New York City.
I 100% when I was reading the dates, I read it as Omicron Gathering. That's how messed up from COVID my brain is. And I had to like look at it. I was
it's like, the Omicron Gathering.
Yeah, the Omicron Gathering.
Oh no, dude. Oh no.
So we don't need any more of those.
Nobody's going to come. They're all going to read that.
Hey, come see us on tour on the Omicron Gathering.
Yep.
That's not what it is.
Is it not?
It is.
People are like, well, is it not? Is it not an Omicron Gathering?
We have no way of knowing. But yeah, I'm super excited that you're going to get to play some of those songs live. That the new album, Violent Portraits, is kind of, I feel like, more of an evolution of where you guys were on the last full length, but it's definitely integrating some more post-metal-y sounding elements, which I love.
Yeah, man. I feel like there's a lot of bands like Cult of Luna or The Ocean that we really love, and that I love a lot, and that we've really explored, but every once in a while, I think you'll hear very direct nods to certain bands in our music. But it's also a very earnest channeling of something that comes out of Andy Thomas and that comes out of Nick Shaw that you're hearing. So I feel like our music is pretty unique in that regard, while you will still hear like very direct nods to the bands that are a big reason why we exist at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's unique.
Yes, it is. It's a great combination. Some of the acoustic elements, everything together is definitely, unique. And especially with your vocals, just cutting through everything, ripping off people's faces. It's altogether wonderful. So if you can, be sure to go check out Blackground Initiate on tour with the Legion and Omnium Gatherum, coming up to a city within driving distance near you if you feel safe, of course.
Thank you. Please.
Yes. Support. If not, buy some merch online.
Please
support.
God.
So
please God.
James, I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me today, sharing some coffee and some metal knowledge. I just have one last question for you before we go.
What you got?
What is your favorite city for Beans and Breakdowns?
So for coffee and for metal, right?
Yeah. Like together.
Ooh. That's an excellent question. Montreal is, funny enough, definitely one of my favorite places to play a show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a ton of roasters out of Montreal.
We can fix that problem.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
So
I would love that. That is one of my favorite places to go, just in general. But I feel like I always get stuck with Tim Hortons fake.
That's the name we do not speak of.
Coffee. It hurts me in my Timbits, man. I can't. Every time we go there, I'm like, no, this makes me more tired.
Right in the Timbits.
Pretty sure there's plastic in this food. Pretty sure. Sorry, I don't mean to insult.
No, of course not.
National treasure.
Everyone has some appreciation for Tim's, but
donuts are good. Yeah, honey curlers. Yeah, I can get down on that. But let's see. As far as coffee goes, I feel like my best coffee experiences, annoyingly, have always been at like a Stumptown or like an Intelligentsia, which is like, a third wave chain. I know,
yes,
but I've had very just excellent experiences like in Boston and in like Seattle and like, which are also great places for shows as well. So if I'm having to average these two things together, it might be like one of the American cities, which is kind of funny. But like some of the places where I've had the best shows have not necessarily had the best coffee per se. I think my best show ever was in Cologne in Germany. It was like the biggest festival that we've played in Euroblast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I had instant coffee that day.
It's wonderful.
From a German market. I had to like mix it into water. I might have even taken a caffeine pill or like taken some pre-workout. I was on tour with Born of Osiris and Bale of Maya. So yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, it's a grind. It's a survival game.
Well, I would love for Montreal to be your favorite city. So next time you come through, we'll hook it up. We'll get to some roasters, if not one, multiple. So
I would love that.
We'll hook it up.
Heck yeah.
James, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I really appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me.
Sir, I appreciate your time.
And
thank you so much for having me on.
I wish y'all all the best on the tour. Be safe, but I definitely enjoy it.
Heck yeah. All right, man.
Take care.
All right, you too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beans and Breakdowns. I'd like to give a huge thank you to James for coming on the podcast and hanging out with me. Make sure to check out the new single, Where the Light Grows Cold from DiAmorte. It's available on all listening platforms, and check out the video. It is extremely epic. If you can, check out Black Crown Initiate on tour with Omnium, Gatherum, and Allegiant. Be sure to show them some support and some love. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. You can also find out more information about Beans and Breakdowns by following us on Instagram at Beans and Breakdowns, and find us on the web at beansandbreakdowns.com. Until next week, be sure to stay caffeinated and wake the fuck up!